welcome to another episode of the Amateur Football Podcast. This week's guest is a belter who everybody that's played in the Glasgow League will know, Stevie the Ref. How you doing, mate?
How you doing, guys? Thanks for inviting me on.
Hi, Stevie.
And everybody will know Smithy, who's been on the podcast a few times. He's going to be joining in a few times, mix things up and change it up a wee bit. How's things, David? All right?
Aye, fine, mate. I was just here for the eye candy, to be honest.
I think you're on the Rank podcast.
Aye, I come.
So, Stevie, we'll just tell everybody a wee about you, where you grew up, what it was like growing up football-wise. Were you playing football?
Well, I grew up in a place called Cool, which is part of kind of Fort William. Right. And just, I suppose, like everybody, played football for their school. Was never ever going to really go any further than that. Used to play in goals, obviously quite small. Yep. So that was it. Enjoyed playing with my mates and things, and it was good. I mean, we won the league in Primary 7. Right. Yeah, I've tasted the absolute highs of success, with Cool Primary School. So when I do give out cards and things on a Sunday, I'm doing it from a position of strength because I know what it takes to be a winner, So, no, I just I've had a laugh obviously with that growing up. Played in the kind of high school team for Lochaber as well, and then Fort William, who were everybody knows Fort William, everybody knows how bad they were. Played for kind of under 17s for them. And then that was as far as it went. So, I kind of stopped growing, a bit like my hair when I was 13, 14. And that was me after that, and you're a goalie and big goals. And it was always a challenge, any time anybody crossed the ball in or anything. So, I mean, I never had any ambitions to go any further than what I did. But like everybody, you just enjoyed playing with your mates and stuff. But the older you got and then moved away to Glasgow when I was 18, I never really kicked a ball after that, except once actually. I used to play on a Saturday with my mates. Used to play a game for follow, like big Rangers supporters, when they would all gather on a Saturday morning and play at 12 o'clock outside the AstroTurf at Ibrox, and they done that every Saturday. So I used to play every now and then. So I started to play in goals again, and then one of the boys suggested that I'll play amateur on a Saturday, and I don't remember the name of the team, but I went along and played one Saturday, and my now wife, was me and her had just started dating, and she came along to watch, and it was horrendous. I think we got absolutely trounced. It was like 9-1 or something, right? And we got actually went behind after about 12 seconds. They played a through ball and the boy chipped me, and I just thought, this is why I stopped playing. And I remember thinking, this is going to be a disaster, and I was horrible. I had a terrible game. And my missus actually texted her mum, right? But she accidentally sent it to me. And she said, oh, there's another one in. He's not doing great or something. So I went into the dressing room at full time, absolutely devastated, thinking, right, I'm definitely never playing again. I should never have tried this. Looked at my messages, and there's my new missus saying, oh, there's another one. So that was the last game of football I played.
So what you're saying is the wife ruined your career?
I mean, I would love to blame her for that. I blame her for a lot of things, but I can't blame her for that.
Brilliant. That's great. I like that one. So we'll skip by. Obviously, as we say, you're a referee. How did that happen? Was it something you wanted to do?
Well, that happened because that game I was telling you about on the Saturday morning, I had dislocated my shoulder, I think, or I'd certainly damaged my shoulder. I can't quite remember. And the boys said, why don't you just come along and referee it for us? And went along, tried it, kind of enjoyed it, and I thought, why not take the exams? So took the exams, and it just kind of went from there. Started off refereeing in Paisley and District, which was the young kids on a Saturday morning, and then it kind of swapped about a wee bit. We done some kind of cup finals and things for them, and then I eventually found myself where we are now, which is GDSFC, working with John and things, and it just kind of naturally progressed, as as you grow up, you kind of make your choices of when you want to referee and stuff. And just on a Sunday, kind of suited me. So that's all I do now. Is just the GS FC.
Right. So you're 21 now, so you start 3 years you've been a referee then, is that right?
I've been a referee for 9 years, I think now.
Right.
So yeah, when I started, it was I took the same course that Jim Laughlin took. Jim Laughlin used to play for Kilmarnock.
Right.
I don't know if anybody would remember him. He was a big centre half, and the young boy that's now in the SPL, who's refereeing, name escapes me. The really young boy, Mick. That's it. Walsh.
Oh,
He was on my course as well. So these boys have kind of, obviously went and been fast track referees.
yeah.
So and they went all the way up the grades and obviously done fantastic. Nick Walsh is a kind of he's one that has done really well, and I think he's a good referee in Scotland as well. So no, the course is good. I would recommend it to anybody that wants to give refereeing a go, obviously, and it's something that you can enjoy.
Yeah.
See for anybody out there that's maybe interested in going for a referee's course, what's the best way to get put on a course? Is it through internet? Is it easily accessible?
Yeah, well, I would just point them in the direction of the Scottish website, the Scottish National website, and you just type in referees course and you'll find it for the West or wherever you want to do it, and it's in different areas you can do it by. So my area is I'm part of the West, so that would be your kind of your governing body kind of thing, and that's where I am. So the likes of Motherwell have their own areas and stuff like Renfrewshire and all that different kind of areas, but it's not a difficult course to get on if you want to go on it. So I would thoroughly recommend it if people want to give it a go, and it's always handy as well just to at least know a wee bit more of the insight into the games and the laws of the game as well. So
Perfect.
How did you find it training? Did you find it, was it what you expected? Did you think it'd be harder, easier?
my tutor referee was Stephen McLean,
All right.
who's in the SPL as well, and I found the referees, I found the course good. I found it interesting. I enjoyed it. I mean, I think I took to it, with regards to enjoying it and doing the courses and all. I think it was about 9 weeks, if I remember. It was 9, I think maybe about 9 Thursdays. I think Tuesday or Thursdays it was. And there was an exam at the end of it, practical exam, which I think you have to get above 86% to pass. It certainly was around that time. And it was good. It was all classwork. And then when you go into the actual training side of it afterwards, it's great. Nobody, everybody makes you feel part of it and helps you get involved. And I think, once you become a referee, you see everything differently. Even when you're at games and things, you can see, I understand what they're trying to do or what they're trying to give or why they've thought that decision and things like that. So it definitely changes your perception of football.
Do you have any regrets doing it, or are you happy that you're not doing it?
I don't have regrets doing it, no.
Yeah.
But it would be a lie to sit here and say that I enjoy it all the time and that it's a great choice. I'm not going to say profession because it's not a profession. Obviously, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Would be the way it is. But there's some times where I wish I'd never done it. There's some times where incidents have happened that haunt you. That that ruin your whole week. It can ruin your day. It can, and it plays on your mind. And yeah, it's difficult. And I think the hardest thing, and people think, or there's been occasion where you've been accused of, influencing or even cheating, but there's no such thing for the likes of myself that would turn up to a Sunday game and try and influence it any other than wanting to have a good game and get back to your car and get up the road. It's a really difficult thing to explain. When you've been in the situation, when you're in the middle, it's a lonely place to be, and it's only you that can make that decision in a game that I've been refereeing games that, you know, been doing it for 9 years. I've refereed hundreds of games, and you can be having the best game in the world up until the 85th minute, and in the 86th minute there's a 22-man battle royal in the middle of your pitch, and it can go as quickly as that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's experience that you can't teach people.
Yeah.
Until that happens to somebody and they're in the middle of a situation like that, it's extremely difficult. Do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. Do I regret it some Sunday nights? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well,
So see before certain games, Stevie, if you know that it's going to be a tasty one, do you, before a game, you know, certain players have rituals pre-match, do you go through any motions before a match if you know it's going to be a wee bit tastier, or do you just go in blank canvas, so let's see what happens kind of thing?
No, I think that everybody that knows me and that's come across me on refereeing would say that I'm quite, I wouldn't say no nonsense. I would say that's my approach to everything. It's just I don't try and have a laugh or a joke, or just very much try and keep myself to myself. And I am harsh or stern. I think it's more a word, because I've seen games where, and the incidents that I've had have all come from when you try and give, you know, half a mile, or you try and give half an inch or whatever, and players take a mile, and before you know it, it goes out of control. There's been times where I've been too heavy-handed, and that hasn't helped either. So in terms of how you approach a game, I like to, if I know it's a big game, or I'm going to referee a game, I like to go loud music in the car. That's normally my first thing to get me kind of in the mood for it. And then when I turn up, it's just okay. I genuinely just turn up thinking, let's try and get through this with at least the less incidents as possible. There's some games where it is impossible not for things to happen, but you know what it's like on a Sunday. You can be, you know, at the Milton at 10 a.m. and by 11:05 you're running your car. So I've had some incidents that, you know, are deeply regretful, and some that aren't, some that have been completely avoidable as well. So
we'll come into some of the wee stories in a wee bit. Just moving on. Look, obviously you say you started at the Renfrew when you started in, and then you moved to the leagues you've done, Renfrew and Glasgow.
Paisley and District is where I started. So that was the kind of youngsters, and you start off at kind of under 13, under 15, under 17, under 19s, and then adults. So you start off with the kids, and it's a great place to learn because it's hostile. You know, wee kids. It's so difficult dealing with this wee 13-year-old guy saying, "Do you want to keep up with play and all that?" And how do you know? And just the abuse, and it's even it's such an eye opener as you go from that. And their parents are horrendous on the sidelines. And I always remember that I was down at Cowan Park when I first started refereeing, and I was speaking to this big striker and talking away to him about a decision. I'm hearing this voice shouting in my ear, "Is it not too bloody cold for this, ref? Just got on with it," and everything else. And I looked up, who is that giving me grief? Looked up, and it was none other than Ali McCoist, my hero. It was his son that I was speaking to at the time. And I was laughing to myself, and he's giving it, you know, bloody got on with it, we're all freezing and everything else. And it was jovial, but it just shows you, I hadn't even realised he was there. I hadn't even realised that was his son. And straight over to him at full time. And then you get the other side of it, where the parents, you know, treat it like it's the Champions League final, and it's their son. And understand it, you know, I've never had a situation with that kind of, you know, with parents or anything where it's went over the top, or it's went after 90 minutes or anything. It's never went any further than verbals. And people get passionate, but if you want to learn how to be a referee, then go and do an under 13s game, under 15s game at that level, and it's such an eye opener. It's a great way to learn. It is fast. It is so fast because kids are like whippets, you know, they're so fast. One ball, one end to the other, you're up and down all the time. It's a great way to learn how to communicate with your players and where to go from there as well. I wouldn't go back to it, may I add. I feel like I've done that bit, and I wouldn't go back to doing, because it really is. It's difficult when you do the kids and the adults at the side and stuff.
So obviously, in the full world knows we're going through a period now of COVID, which is affecting all of football. Yourself, is the wife getting fed up of seeing you every Sunday now? How's it been for referees? I mean, I know the players are itching to get back. You yourself, are you enjoying it? Are you trying to get out?
I actually had a really nasty injury this time last January time when it was coming up to us ending. A really bad Achilles injury, which has hampered me. It happened at the Palace of Arts. I remember feeling it go, and it was really, really sore at the time. And after about 10 minutes, the pain went and it was fine. And it was getting to the point where I was refereeing and not being able to walk for 2 days, and the pain was just incredible. So during kind of lockdown, I've not refereed properly now, albeit there was a brief period where it went back for a couple of weeks. We'd done a few friendlies and things. Aside of that, I've maybe not refereed now for probably about 15 months, going back to that time last year, January last year. And I've needed it. I think I've needed it to get away from it mentally as well, because it becomes a lot. And physically, I've kind of needed it as well. And albeit I'm, a couple of stone heavier and we need to work on that when we get back. Understand all that. That's a bad side of lockdown for me. But injury wise, I think I've needed the time away. I ended up going to get scans and going to get physio. And it turned out that I hadn't torn my Achilles completely, which they thought I might have needed an operation. It maybe ripped it slightly, and it's healed, but I've not given it enough time. And then I went back and done more games, and it's ended up there's been kind of calcium bits round the bottom of the muscle, which is difficult to repair. And you basically the actual cure of my injury was to stretch and start running again, and just gradually, but only a wee bit. So I used to do distance running, used to go out and do 5K, 10Ks and things. I can't go back to that now. So I needed to start off just doing 1 or 2K, and you just retrain your muscle to actually strengthen itself. Yeah. So it was a really bizarre injury in terms of, most people think injuries you get, like an injection or you get cream or whatever. I was just antibiotics, and the doctor's advice was basically get back on it again. So that was difficult, but I've been pain-free for a wee while, and yeah, I mean, it'll be good to get back. I don't know if Karen's as much sick of me as a Sunday, but I'm sure she's certainly sick of the wee £40 presents that she used to get given for our week ahead, certainly.
See, with regards to your injury and stuff like that, and I think folk forget about the athletic specimen in the middle of the park that is the referee. Have you got any of yourself? You got any training regimes that you do throughout the week to get you ready for a Sunday?
Well, I should be running, mate. I mean, as long as you stretch well, I think that's one thing that this has taught me. You need to stretch before and after. And people will definitely see me stretching my Achilles more than they would have. It's very much like the Blue Wicked van, the advert where the guys that get the heater on and then they turn up, and that's what it's like for a referee, whereas the boys will all be out in the snow and the wind and the rain. Warm-ups, we're in on the heater, 5-2, run down and get started as quickly as possible. But for myself, I think this has taught me that I need to be better with stretching beforehand, certainly stretching after, and during the week. It's just about keeping yourself fit. So it would be doing running and that would, for a referee wise, we don't need to worry about strength or anything like that. As long as you're fit enough to play and be within your kind of 15-20 yard diameter, then that's the real challenge.
I take it it's no like reps to mouth, whistle practices, up, down, shoulders, strains, cards, just run.
Well, I don't show many cards, mate. I don't need
You've only got one red card. That's how you put one card and it's a red one.
I don't need to practice these movements, but I think there's the other side of it there that you need to, as we approach and as we restart again, we'll do the referee core boys that we've got and girls that we've got and on the league. We'll do Zooms together. We'll do training together in terms of, we'll go through the laws and what's changed and where we need to be, because it's been a whole year. So I'll certainly go back to the books and read up again and just refresh my memory. So in terms of training wise, I think that's where we need to be. We need to be on it and know the laws of the game for any incident that might come up.
And just on that, the laws of the game, just a wee sidetrack, if you got any particular rule or law in the game that you would like to take out, or would you like to introduce a law or a rule to the game?
I would like to introduce a law that you cannot speak to a referee at all. That would make it wonderful. But no, there's a couple of ones though that one story that caught me. It was an under-17 game. Boys stepped up, hit the penalty, hit the post, and came back to him, and he volleyed it in. And they went away and celebrated. And my first instinct was that's not right. And these things only happen like once every 4 years. They don't happen because most people will know that you cannot put it in straight after unless there's other touches or whatever. And they went away, and I had to stop that goal. And the reaction from that was just horrific until you explained it and you talk your way out of it. And it's really difficult to give a decision. People, obviously must think that it's easy that, but it's really difficult when you get surrounded and people are shouting at you and telling you that's not right, and you've made a mistake or whatever. The other rule that's really difficult on a Sunday is the 6-second rule for a goalkeeper, because that law still exists, and it gets manipulated, as we say. I can be there looking at the watch and a goalkeeper will have it for 15 seconds, and that's not right. But on a Sunday, are you going to enforce that law at a time where it's extremely difficult to do so? Sometimes on a Sunday, and it'll sound bad, but you have to manage the situation as well as referee a game. So you've got to remember that you're there by yourself. You don't have the support of anyone else. And effectively, you don't want to over officiate and ruin a game. So there's a fine line there for everyone. So to take out a law, I would get rid of the 6-second one, because people do ask you, and it's a difficult one to implement. But it's the smaller laws, the things like having to give an indirect free kick in a box when people assume it should be a penalty and things like that. If you journey back to Christmas time, I obviously watched Rangers. There was a decision in Rangers played Hibs, and there was a high foot for Yanis Hadji was tackling Joe Yule, I think it was, in the penalty box, and his foot was high. And if he had given the decision, people were saying it should have been a penalty for Hibs, but the decision should only ever have been an indirect free kick. We have ever had to give it that once, and that was really difficult to explain to people why it's not a clean penalty as well. It's the small laws that don't ever come in, but you only have to give every once in a while that are difficult, because they're the ones that people say that's not correct. And as soon as the game finished, the first thing you do is go to your phone or whatever and double check that law you've correct.
And that's interesting, because only referees who have done the courses now would remember such kind of minute laws that we all know about, but because we don't see it day to day, we just totally forget about.
But they're the ones that are really difficult, because you don't do them every game, and because you don't have to implement them every game. When you do implement them, they're the ones that you suddenly think, am I right? Is what I'm doing here correct? It's the same decisions on a weekly basis. I think it's all pretty much straightforward, and you don't get much difference until one comes up you've not dealt with in a long time, and then you're just like, oh, have I dealt with this properly? And you have to be adamant and sure of what you're doing. Case of 11 people telling you that you're definitely wrong. So they're the ones that are the difficult ones. And as I said, one like the one with the post and the high foot indirect free kick inside the box, these are really contentious ones that in the heat of it in a match day, people don't remember.
See, obviously you're saying you like Rangers. See, when you're sitting watching a game, and if you're watching with people and they're standing up shouting at a decision, and you're obviously know the laws more than they're sitting there, do you join in, or do you have to sit and remember and go, well, I know that's no the right decision, if you know what I mean? Or do you get caught in the moment?
My missus says to me I'm awful because we go to the games together. That's how we met, and I can, the whole crowd can be going crazy, and I can say, well, I know why he's given that, or I agree with him, and it can be the worst decision according to 40,000 around you or whatever.
Yeah.
So you definitely can see perhaps what they're trying to do or what they're trying to give. It doesn't mean you agree with them. I think I'm still as bad for moaning and grumping and shouting at a football match. You boys might think I'm grumpy on a Sunday. You should see me in a 90 minutes. The boys that sit next to you would certainly testify to that, I'm sure.
As a referee, what's your opinion on VAR?
It shouldn't be implemented. I understand why I think for things like goal line technology, I think it's a really good thing. I think for I think VAR, if it was utilised properly, like for clear and obvious errors, if you're taking it down to minuscule things like inches of somebody's armpit at the offside and things, I think that ruins it. Because I think everybody would agree that if you get a situation in a cup final where there's a blatantly offside goal, or there's a ball over the line that the referee, the official hasn't called, or there's a penalty decision that was outside the box, I think an official would want that assistance to make sure that the correct decision was made. But when you're scrutinising a referee to the level of inches for offsides and things, I think that is a major bone of contention. Man United scored a goal today that is, again, VAR's been highlighted and people are saying it's a joke. And I think that's where it becomes, and a referee should be able to referee it as he sees, unless it's a clear and obvious big error, and that's when they should bring it in. I think it's a good system if they can tinker it, but if they're going to over officiate it and re-referee a match the way they are at the moment, they either take it out completely or they go with it. And I would be in terms of taking it out completely. They need to modify it and find a happy medium.
No, definitely. It's a good view to have. I'm the same. I don't like it. But there is times where, like, see when there's a foul in the middle of the park and he's cut to him and he's running in your field, it's saying, well, come on. You know what I mean? For ref, just let the game roll. But I get what you're saying, last man thing. Goal line, I think, is definitely the goal line thing. We'll move on to a wee bit of fun now, if you can remember. So we'll go through your years, like your refereeing. Have you ever managed a team and thought, wow, what's the best team you've managed? Your referee, sorry.
Well, I think the most satisfying thing for a referee is when you go along and you see a great goal or a great moment. Somebody smacks in a volley for 30 yards, somebody hits an unbelievable free kick, and you see that happen. I think they're the moments that you really enjoy. Refereeing highlights for me, I got asked to officiate a charity match. It was Andy McLaren's up at Airdrie's Stadium, and some of the players that played that day, Gary Mcallister, Alex Ray, I had the boy Seth Johnson, who used to play for Leeds, Colin Henry, Brian Martin, ex-Motherwell, Celtic striker, who name escapes me, but I can't remember his name. Dutch boy, Venegar of Hesselink, he played. Bobby Peta, the boy that used to play for Hamilton, Jose Katongo, he was on skill. These boys' skill. Rudy Vat, a whole list of players, Andy McLaren himself. And that was a joy to be involved in, because these guys might lose their pace, but they never lose their quality. Big Chris Sutton played as well, and he was as cheeky as he was charming on the telly as well. So to be able to be in that company, Gary Mcallister, who was a particular hero of mine watching Scotland throughout the years, who went for the very highs of captaining Scotland, to missing the penalty, to being bombed out by his country and his supporters, to being right back up there. I loved his story. To be in Liverpool and scoring UEFA Cup final and all that kind of stuff. So I actually got a picture taken with Gary Mack and things like that, and then he later went on and would be doing what he's doing now. So guys like Gary McAllister, Colin Henry, who'd been Scottish heroes and as well as being, big players for us, has been, that was an incredible high. And in terms of actual refereeing games where, in leagues and stuff you've really enjoyed. I actually enjoy every game I go to referee. Might not enjoy the way it goes or what happens, but I never go to a game thinking I'm not going to enjoy this, because it to me it breeds on the game. If your attitude isn't good or it's not to other people, then it might be it comes across to them, and it can spoil the atmosphere. I've had people say to me before that you're only here for the money, and I've now not refereed properly in 15 months, and I can tell you I don't miss that money. It's not for us. It's a luxury, to an extra. We have. It's not about the money for me, and there's a lot better ways to earn money than what we go through on a Sunday for 40 quid. I can assure you. But the moments that you go for are the good goals that you see, or the times that you're able to play. I get a lot of satisfaction if you do a really good advantage and play on, and it leads to a goal or something like that. Or there's a bad challenge and you play on, and the team benefit, and you're then be able to come back. It's moments like that are enjoyable, and being able to get to an end of a game that's went well and both teams have enjoyed it, and you shake your hand on the way off. That they're the moments that you enjoy, and that's why you do it.
Definitely.
Should we bring in referee celebrations then for a good game? And
Do you
just an
remember
Alan
when-
Shearer run away into the corner?
Do you remember when Mike Dean gave the advantage in the English Premier League? I think it was Man City, and the team went on to score, and he was away giving it that. I think that would be really interesting on a Sunday if we could introduce that. In the Milton, if GSC or whoever have just scored one of the big goals in the league, and you're able to give it all this, I think it would make the walk to the car even more interesting than it is normal.
That's the thing, you wouldn't be walking to the car.
Well, exactly.
As you say, you get a lot of trouble at games. If you've got somewhere, if you're feeling a wee bit down, where you can go and get support, something to do with referees or something like that.
You can speak to your association, and like my touch base for the league would be Nim.
Yeah.
Nim's obviously the president of the league, and we're really close and work together. And there's been times where I've said to Nim, more recently as well, before we kind of stopped, I was very close to quitting, very close. And I've spoke to Nim about things that were happening, and it just becomes a point where it isn't worth it anymore. Where if you're going along to games and people are saying stuff to you like you ruin games and you are the worst thing that happens to us on a Sunday, and stuff that people say to you, it gets to a point where it's just not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think people, we talk a lot about mental health, and we talk a lot about watching people and everything else. And I love nothing more than guys enjoying themselves on a Sunday, but people need to be more aware of the effect that you can have, when people are physically challenging you after games and stuff like that. I think that's when it becomes way too much. I'll quite happily talk to anyone on the way to the car, and we can talk about things, but your opinion is never going to change in terms of referee. I think you got that wrong. Well, I think I got it right. The stage after that of doing ourselves, you're this and you're that and you're everything else. I think people need to be aware of that. And as a league, it would be, the way that the GDSAFC handle it is a good thing. But I'm not asking people. I understand what it's like on a Sunday. The heat of 90 minutes, and everybody wants to win. I love that passion, but people need to realise that the effect that you can also have on an official as well when they go to then go home and try and deal with their young kids and wife, and you've got all this stuff going on in your head. I think that's important, and that would be my message to people that maybe watch this. Beyond referees being referees on a Sunday, it's your hobby to go and play football. It's our hobby to go and referee, and I'll never know any referee who on purpose will make a poor decision or whatever in the eyes of that team. They're certainly not done on purpose. I know that I make mistakes on a Sunday. I know
referees, you can't live with them, but you can't live without them, kind of thing.
Listen, I understand it completely, and I think it would be wrong to sit here and say that I have an excellent 90 minutes every week, but you can only call what you see. It's a certain angle. It's a certain, somebody can run in your way. and you just do the best of what you can. But I think that people need to realise that beyond that, we're human as well, and what you can say and act towards us is really difficult.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. You've been brilliant. I enjoyed the stories. Probably could go on for about another 2 hours if I'm honest. But no, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much, lads.
Right, cheers, Stevie.